Hey, everybody, and welcome to the conversation. Listen to me. We have so much that we have to cover. Wait a minute, people. Hold on. There we go. There we go. All right, let's fix it, Jesus. All right, y'all. So we have a lot of ground that we need to cover tonight. Welcome to the conversation. We are talking about so much. Before we get into talking with our guests, before we start talking about now what, before we start talking about this election, if you are just tuning in, make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe at all things at the Convo Pod Show. Now, if you're joining us from the YouTube channel, if you're joining us from that live stream, make sure you drop us a comment to let us know where you are chiming in from. If you are joining us from the Facebook stream, whether it is from either one of the guest pages or from the Conversation with Yolanda Trotman page, make sure you drop us a comment so we know where you're watching from. So before we get started, listen, I need you guys to chime in terms of how you're feeling, because this is probably for a lot of us been a time of high anxiety in the last 24 hours for sure. And we're almost there. But we're going to talk about everything from post-election analysis from the top of the ticket to the bottom of the ticket, because while the news is focusing on what is happening as far as the presidential race is concerned, what is very important is what is happening in local races, what's happening on a statewide level. So obviously we'll be focusing that from the perspective of our North Carolina viewers. But for those of you who are watching from other places, we're obviously going to be talking about national politics, and we are going to be talking about it from the presidential piece to what that means for the Senate and what will ultimately mean for the House as we continue to count all of the votes. I have some phenomenal guests tonight. So now I don't know about you. I got one or two things. I either got brown liquor or I got water. So I'm rolling with water for now, and we're gonna see what happens as the night progresses. So make sure that you chime in, drop a comment in the comments. Make sure that you also let us know if you have questions for any of our guests. We will certainly go there. We also absolutely need to hear from you as we tackle a couple of the tough topics that we're going to get into tonight, which is what this means for the fabric of America, a little bit of a conversation about implicit bias, which we talked about on the show before. Hey, Bob Fasik, I see you. Stefan, I see you as well, from Virginia and from Durham. All right, keep it coming. So as far as everything else is concerned, let's just jump right into it. So we have a panel of three guests that are going to be helping us with the conversation. And I specifically chose men for this particular Now What. We'll probably do a second one, but this Now What is specifically focused on men, on specifically Black men, because when I came up with the idea of this show, what was particularly important was to make sure that we talk about it from the perspective of the Black male, because of course the media has painted a very different picture in terms of the turnout as far as Black men are concerned. Obviously, what has happened with the push to, I don't even know how to say this delicately, but the push to have rappers speak for the Black community. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into some of the misogyny that we've seen that's happened. And I think our guests are perfect for that. So the first person that is no stranger to the show is none other than Sean Grier. Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the backdrop. Yes to all of this right here, the Captain America and all that. But I'm right behind you on the Biden-Harris. See, I got my sticker to put on my forehead in case we get the music during the show. So we good to go. I'm gonna leave it right here. Now I'm gonna take it down, but I'm gonna leave it here for a minute in case it pops off while we're on. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me. I am reporting to you from Greensboro, the Gate City.
Okay.
And we have some victories here with our team for Kathy Manning for Congress. And of course, Senator Muhammad won his re-election in Charlotte.
Okay.
Two phenomenal young women of color in Durham County that will be joining Durham County Board of Commissioners. So Namashina Burns and Netta Alam. So I'm feeling great.
So tell us about what's going on, because I know when we talked earlier, before I bring Ray and Brad into the conversation, you and I had, well, I told you I was exhausted, but you told me it's okay. We're almost there. So I'm gonna bring the map up in about 10 minutes as we talk about all this. But what has been your sense? Because I know you've been on calls all day, national party, local party, all of that. Before you answer that question, so for people who don't know Sean, like Sean is like the guru. When I think politics, I think Sean. And Sean has been in politics. We learned from the last show that you were on, since you were in, I believe, 6th grade. Did I remember that correctly? Eighth grade. Since 8th grade, and literally can have a conversation about anything from what maps look like to all of that. So if you give us a sense of what you've seen, or at least how the last, say, 8 to 10 hours have been as far as the calls that you've been on.
So we have seen the Republicans try to engage in a very strategic effort to either stop counting, to throw out counts, or to remove certain ballots from being even considered in the process. So
okay.
In North Carolina, you're going to see the absentee ballot, that 116,000, 300, 400 that are remaining. We are probably going to see litigation on those in the state and federal level.
And can I stop you for a second? And that's huge for people that are watching, because if you look at what the numbers look like this morning and the difference in votes between, especially when we get to judicial races and all of that, you're talking about a good less than 50,000 votes, not taking into consideration the votes we haven't counted yet. I'm sorry, go ahead and continue.
Oh, there you go. And so when you're looking at the battle maps, which I know we'll talk about, I got excited when you said you had a map. I said the history teacher is back. So when we look at that battle map, if we can pinpoint certain seats like Chief Justice Sherry Beasley, who's down by around 3,000 votes, if we know there are a certain amount of absentee ballots that can flip that race, we need to hold to our core value of counting all duly casted ballots.
Absolutely.
We're going to see that litigation there. We've seen it in Pennsylvania. We've won those challenges in state and federal courts. So that I'm excited. We just called Michigan, Wisconsin. We're waiting on Arizona and Pennsylvania. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be walking into the White House in January.
Wait, hold on. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I got the Diet Coke. But
okay, I said I was gonna stick with water, but whatever. Okay. And Sean, on your a couple people are commenting, they're having a hard time hearing you, so turn your volume up on your laptop. Hey, Janice, I see you. Hey, Roderick, I see you. So all right, so Sean, what do you think? Because people aren't really seeing that there's a major issue with uncounted ballots, because what was happening last night, and I think it's fair to say a lot of people who were watching it were getting caught up in, of course, the high drama that is everyone. And what was the impact of the Supreme Court decision that has made it possible for those votes to be continued to be counted well past yesterday?
So that was an awesome decision. We have some amazing litigators. John Roberts basically said, hey, we're going to look at this issue later. And we are incited with us to extend the count for absentee ballots to be returned to the 12th. That is important as we look at these ballots that are remaining, because they can flip state house seats in about 7 or 8 of the races we're looking at between the House and the Senate. Particularly in the Senate with Harper Peterson and Wilmington, North Carolina. So that federal judiciary is important, and I know we're going to talk about the U.S. Senate race too, but we need our senators. We should have won as many as we could have, because you got Donald Trump appointing 300 something attorneys to the bench and the Senate confirming them. The Senate would have been our check on that process as well, to make sure when these type of issues happen and they go before a judge, that that's actually a qualified attorney that wasn't, out of law school for 2 years before they got a lifetime appointment.
Right. And we're going to talk about that as the map is starting to shift. I'm going to go ahead and bring my next guest, my next panel guest in. You all know him quite well. Now, look, y'all not going to be fighting tonight, Sean. Well, you probably should fight, because it's entertaining.
It's only a fight if both sides can win. I don't know.
Right. So if I would say that Sean, for as long as I've known Sean, since 2014, Sean to me, I would say is the baby godfather, not because you're baby, but because you're young. You're like the baby godfather of politics to me. Ray really isn't like the OG, but he's like the neo OG because he kind of came out of nowhere to me. So we ain't even gonna talk about it. Let's just bring him in. All right, welcome Ray McKinnon to the show. And I know if y'all caught our show when we talked about it when the Biden-Harris ticket was announced. We had an incredible show. We talked about what that means on a short-term basis and a long-term basis. Welcome back to the show, Mr. McKinnon. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I am feeling good. I share my brother's enthusiasm. I think I'm feeling good on the national level. I am, to be honest, quite morose when we talk about right here in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm still holding out hope. We still have, I think, about 117,000 absentee ballots that were requested that haven't come back yet. So I'm still holding out hope that we're going to, that Justice Beasley is going to win. And, there's still votes out there.
Yes.
And all that. So I'm trying not to put negative energy out into the world. I'm trying to be light right now. So
we see the candles in the background.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. So he's got a whole zen, baby.
Listen, this is the first alcohol I've had today.
Right.
So, I've been trying to keep myself grounded because ain't no sense, adding negativity to the world. Enough of that.
So quick question for those people who may not know you, Ray, and I'll just ask the question simply. What was the impetus? Oh, see, now you're using big words. I'm going to use a big word. So what was the impetus for you to get involved in politics, and how did that pique your interest where you started to use social media as a means to be able to talk about politics more?
Yeah, that's our gift for county education for all of us. I think the impetus for me getting involved in politics was I don't really know what started. I remember volunteering at the Gifford County Democratic Party. I just always liked history. Ironically, my civics class, my civics teacher was a big. This car was a big thing, and so that I've been involved in politics for as long as I can remember. Not since 8th grade now, not since 8th grade. Although I did knock doors for Harvey Gantt when he was running for Senate. When he ran for Senate back in the day. So it might have been.
Okay. And so for you, from your perspective, did you feel like, I think we all kind of knew, particularly people who watch politics quite a bit, we wouldn't have our answer last night. How did you feel this morning, though? Because, and for those of you who, before you answer that question, for those of you who are just tuning in, I saw several people join in. One, let us know if you're local, let us know, send us a wave. But I want y'all to do a check-in for us because we want to kind of get a sense of how people are feeling. So you're feeling good, that's a green heart. If you're struggling a little bit, maybe a yellow heart. And then if it ain't good, give me a red heart. Like drop it in so we can kind of get a sense of how people are feeling, because that's going to be important to our conversation as we go forward. And especially as some of our special guests drop in. So, okay, Ray, you go to sleep, you wake up. How are you feeling?
I went to sleep pretty late last night. I went to bed probably like 4 o'clock. So by the time I went to bed, I knew that the president already tried to declare that he'd won. But I also, I never felt like we weren't going to win, that Joe Biden wasn't going to win. The thing that's always that's been on me is like, man, we are getting trounced in North Carolina. So I went to bed feeling like that. I woke up feeling like that still when it on the state level, but not. I don't feel like everything is over. I still feel like we can keep get Justice Beasley, and we had some pickups, but not as much. So I'm feeling like there are some losses, but I don't feel like everything is lost.
Right. Okay, so hold that thought. So for those of you who are just joining us, one, make sure you share this because we're going to cover quite a bit of information. And two, let us know how you're feeling. Let us know how you're doing, because we've got several recently elected and re-elected officials who are going to kind of talk about what this means for North Carolina, at least on the congressional side, and then what it means as far as the judicial races, because the numbers are what they are now. I will say, for me personally, I knew better than to watch last night, and I slept actually really well, but I think that was probably induced by the brown liquor and the half a cigar I smoked over at Studio 229. Shout out to Kevin Douglas, because he knew that he was like, sis, don't do it. Just don't even look over there. He kept turning me away from the TV so it wouldn't be a problem. But all jokes aside, I went to bed fine. And I think this is probably true for a lot of people. A lot of people that have had the experience of however they felt in 2016, but this is different, I think, because I woke up feeling like, okay, I was good until I saw what North Carolina looked like. And I think what became stressful for me was because I care most about, honestly, the judicial races than anything else. And so when I saw the list, I was like, oh my God, like, what in the world? And I immediately just felt this sense of despair from a legal perspective, because I know what it was like practicing when the bench looked like it can potentially look like now, as far as dealing with issues in criminal justice and things of that nature. So it was just a different feeling. But I think what most people, and what I'm seeing, at least in the chat, are feeling better, at least, than how they may have felt last night. But we're going to talk about how the media kind of either gave us a heightened sense of perhaps unnecessary fear. But I guess it depends on what you actually watched or who you actually watched last night. So last guest I'm bringing in before we start talking to our guests who are either recently elected or reelected is none other than, actually I met him through social media. We kind of connected that way because I started seeing all these political posts, and I'm always fascinated by people who post political things like all the time, because I think it's a matter of educating and informing people, but I'm always curious to see how they actually feel about things. So y'all be nice, because he is new to the panel. But like I said, for those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about Now What? It's our post-election analysis show, 3 men and a lady, specifically talking about politics. And I specifically wanted to have Black men on the show because I wanted to talk about some of the issues that have popped up, good, bad, or ugly, as it relates to race and how race and misogyny has really impacted the fabric of America. So without further ado, let's welcome Brad Furby to the show. What's happening, Brad? How you doing?
Good. How's everybody doing?
We all right. As you heard, you got water over there. What you got? You good?
I got water, and it sounds like I need my hands too. I don't know. Do I need my hands too?
No,
We're on the same team. We're on the same team.
Right. Well, when we talk politics, it gets real up in here. So,
absolutely.
Same question before we jump into a couple of things. So, for you, what was it that got you interested in politics? Because your background, now you do real estate work and some other things, right? Tell the viewers what your professional background is, and then how you got interested in politics specifically.
Well, I'm a realtor, real estate investor. But I simply got into politics a lot because Donald Trump, and the fact that a lot of people in my circle that I would come in contact with on a daily basis just didn't understand what was going on, and really was starting to feed into all the misinformation that was out there. So me being into politics and always been quiet for so many years, I decided to speak out and start educating people and trying to break down the difficult stuff into just simple format that they can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So they really understand what was going on and what was happening.
Okay, and so is that how you developed your IG handle of Political Ferb, or was it just because of what you were seeing in this need to educate?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started going off, that's where it really started to take off with the Political Ferb.
Okay.
But my Ferb is obviously, my last name is Furby, so I've always been known as Ferb since I was like 10 years old playing sports. Mm-hmm. That was my name. That was my neighborhood name. But yeah, the political stuff, it took off after I started speaking out.
And so, do you have political aspirations yourself, or is that to be continued? I'm an ass. I'm an ass.
I don't know. We're gonna see. Definitely. I live in Charlotte, uptown Charlotte. So maybe city council, maybe something like that.
Don't be putting stuff out here because we'll pull you into the corner and just get it done. Okay.
It may be. I'm definitely interested in it. I'll tell you that.
Okay. And so same question I asked Sean and Ray. So how did you feel last night? How late were you up, or did you go to bed and just kind of start it over this morning?
Listen, I was hoping for the knockout punch in the first round. I was hoping for Florida to come. And then when I started to see Miami-Dade County, I'm like, what are they doing down there? I might not ever go back to South Beach. But I was hoping for the knockout in the first round. So once that didn't happen, I knew it was going to be a long night because without Florida, he really had no path to victory. But once I started seeing the numbers from last night from Georgia, and I kept seeing DeKalb County, and even up until an hour ago, I'm telling my other friends, like, DeKalb County is going to be the knockout punch. I forget, like Fox News called Arizona, but I think once Georgia lands probably tonight, that's game over. I think DeKalb County is going to be the knockout punch. I think they only reported like 89% of the vote, and it's like 300,000 votes left there or something like that.
Yeah. So for you, and I'm gonna have you guys step aside for just a second once I bring on Senator Muhammad in just a second. So for you, as you're watching, and this is for each of you, as you're watching the results, what do you think the biggest issue that you saw that created the high drama? Do you think it's just the media creating the high drama, or do you think this really is what America truly has embraced? Because it just depends on how you feel when you see the original numbers and how crazy it looked when you're just talking about election day results from precincts versus not knowing the real factor that there's so many uncounted ballots out there. I'll start with you, Ray.
I think, I don't think it was kind of generated hype in North Carolina. I mean, you think if you look at the election day numbers, there were about 900,000 people who voted on election day, 893,000. I don't think we expected that number to be so high, right? So if it was around 700,000 folks who had voted, we would have performed the exact same way that they were saying we were going to perform in North Carolina. We wouldn't be at this place. But because we had pretty significant turnout when we talk about absentee mail-in votes, we did relatively well. But the turnout, they had about 200,000 more than I think people are expecting for them to have. On turnout. So we could have, I think, withstood what Trump got on the election day with 700,000 turnout, but we couldn't with the 900,000 folks. So, I think we got to be careful. Obviously, we got to learn something, but we got, I've seen people with their hot takes saying, this is what happened when you don't vote. I'm like, well, people got it. This was kind of the highest turnout we've had in a while. So folks need to realize that there was high enthusiasm. We could have certainly always done more, but I don't know. So I'm not feeling some kind of way. I don't feel like it was hot drama. I think that what we're seeing is all of these things are people's best guesses. But what happens on the ground when people turn out will have a different impact. This isn't like right now, everybody's like, give us the numbers. It's like, yo, for weeks, people have been telling y'all, you're not getting your numbers tonight. You're not getting them tomorrow. Like, calm down. Like, it's all good. Like, we need to wait for the numbers to come out. When we do that, Donald Trump is going to be ejected from the White House. Joe Biden is going to win. But the question is, what does that matter, right? What we've got to make sure that really matters for us. But anyway, that might be going farther than you want to go. But
that's okay. That's okay. All right, Sean, jump in.
I do believe it was overly hyped in certain sectors, and it's only because they were looking at background polling. And in my experience, when you are polling people, it becomes less dependable the closer you get to the election, which is why you started seeing polls saying, 60% of the people we polled already voted. Well, that is a useless poll because now we're just playing guessing games. I think if we ignore these polls, if we look at voting behavior, which Vote Builder allows us to do, to Ray's point, we don't have to, come up with A, B, C, D. We can just say, here's what we know so far, and we have to wait and see.
Outstanding.
And they need ratings. So
Well, that too. So a couple people commented, and this is kind of a let's hold that thought before we get there, because I really want to talk to our other special guests to kind of see how they're doing and what's next for them. But one of the things I want you all to be we're going to talk about is polling itself, because the one thing that I've never been polled. Nobody's ever called me in life. So to ask me anything. So we're going to talk about polling. Sean, that's probably your bailiwick in terms of how it works. Mandy D, hey man, well actually, hey Mandy, Janice, Roderick, hey Darren, Caroline, Courtney, Ronald, all you guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this. Janice is sending you, Sean and Ray, much love as well. Actually, you too, Brad, but she said fellow realtor, so she's showing you some love as well. But Mandy commented as far as the numbers in Georgia. Now, Mandy, let us know if this is super current, but she says there's 140,000 left in Fulton County. And DeKalb County has, we don't know the numbers there, but he was down about 50K. So that's why it went from like screaming red to wait a minute, this might change. Do either of you all have a sense of or actually, Sean, I'll ask you this, since you were on the calls all day with the party in various places, do you have a sense in terms of thanks, Mandy says is current. Do you have a sense in terms of what's going on in Georgia as far as the numbers that are still out there and versus whatever the current lead is?
And I just want y'all know I'm not being rude. I'm looking at a tracker on my phone. She's right. They essentially, through litigation and through the sweep, said there are a ton of ballots in Atlanta and the exurban counties. They are falling to Biden, which is good. The concern now is the legal challenges of we've tabulated them. We know they're Biden. Are they going to hold and be processed as actual Biden votes? Mm-hmm. So it goes back to lawyers and judges deciding whether or not our constitutional rights are going to be counted at this point in time.
Excellent segue. So, gentlemen, I'm going to have you guys step aside for a second, stand by, because I want to first talk to Senator.
You want us to stand back first?
Oh my goodness! First of all, let me.
That's called a callback, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait,
callback.
Not this time. Not today.
Oh goodness!
All right, hold that thought. But I'll have you guys back in just a second. So so hold tight. Bad choice of words, y'all. Y'all know what I meant. All right. So next up, I have one of my dear friends who I've known since he not began his career, but was at the Public Defender's Office before becoming a senator here in North Carolina. He was on our indictment series that we had a few months ago, and we were talking about the system from the statewide level in terms of what we need to do as far as our state legislature is concerned. He has won re-election as we had predicted. And so I'm so happy to have him back on the show. Y'all, welcome to the show. None other than Senator Mujtaba Muhammad. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Judge Trotman, for having me. It's great to be here with my good friends, Sean Grier and Ray McKinnon, of course, and our newest friend, Brad, who you've invited to this panel. It's always good to hear from them. So thanks for joining me.
How you feeling?
I feel good overall. Look, what I will say, something to be really, really proud of at the end of the day as an American, as a North Carolinian, is our record turnout. Like your earlier guest talked about, with over 75% of registered voters right here in North Carolina actually getting out and making their voices heard. So that's a huge win. You may agree with the outcomes. You may not agree with the outcomes. But when everybody votes at the end of the day, it's a great day for democracy. So I'm excited about that. I'm so thankful that we have Governor Cooper reelected for another 4 years. It could have been devastating. And the reality is real lives could have been at risk if Governor Cooper would have not been reelected. So it's a resounding victory for him. And look, what I will say as far as our race in the North Carolina State Senate District 38, it's great to be reelected. I commend my fellow state house representatives. We have about 5 state house seats within our Senate district. All of them got reelected. And I'm glad that the people of Senate District 38 in Mecklenburg County have co-signed onto our legislative agenda of equity, justice reform, fighting for working families, restoring strong public schools in North Carolina, and so much more.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the outlook now? Because I believe when we talked, and for people who don't know, at least in North Carolina, our goal was to retake the Senate. What's been our net gain and loss at this point? Obviously, we still, at least the Senate races, unless there's major, shifts in absentee ballots, it's kind of hard to say how any of that will be affected. Unless there's races like yours or Senator Marcus where the numbers were so incredibly high, you're safe. But there's some that are close. So what's the makeup looking like now? And let's start with the Senate.
Look, Judge Hartman, like we've talked about on your show before. I mean, presidential elections are great. Who's in the White House every 4 years? But these local legislative races that impact so many lives here on a local level, in our city, county, and statewide level, roads, infrastructure, schools, access to healthcare. So many of these issues are decided in our local state legislatures. And we as Senate Democrats we were excited and hopeful about taking that majority because of the commitment to justice and our state's well-being. Many folks, many of your listeners helped us break the Republican supermajority after almost a decade. But here we are. The reality is we got 117,000 potentially outstanding absentee ballots, like my friend Ray McKinnon mentioned earlier. And a lot of these close legislative races are down to a couple hundred votes, a couple of thousand votes. But right now, the numbers we see we've come short because we needed to pick up 5 seats in the North Carolina Senate. We're at exactly 22 right now. We did pick up 2 seats in Mecklenburg County and Wake County, which is a great win. And that's because of fairer maps. I wouldn't say they're the best maps because at the end of the day, they were still drawn by politicians. But thankfully, we again had an independent judiciary step up and tell us, look, partisan gerrymandering is wrong. So we had a good recipe for a much more competitive race this cycle. Unfortunately, it looks like we've come up a little short as far as the state legislative level. And that breaks my heart because I'm there in the North Carolina Senate for fighting for so many of our working families right here in Charlotte. I mean, we've got almost 1 million people that are still uninsured, and we could have easily expanded things like Medicaid here in North Carolina and provide access to over 600,000 folks. We've got to do so much more to restore public education and a beacon of hope. And those are the types of things that are going to suffer. And my biggest fear is because of redistricting, whichever political party has the power now after the census will determine our future for the next decade. But we're hopeful. We're putting in the work now so we can build for tomorrow.
So let's say so we didn't pick up the net 5 that we needed. What is it looking like in the House? What's the numbers looking like in the House? Obviously, we're still talking about over 100,000 votes unaccounted for. But what's it looking like, at least for now?
Absolutely. Look, they needed 6 seats to flip their House, and it looks like unfortunately they ended up losing 4 incumbents. Again, those are tight numbers still.
Mm-hmm.
There are outstanding numbers still. So again, just like we're being patient tonight, where it looks like we're pretty confident. I feel good about, we're going to elect Vice President Biden as our next president, the 46th president of the United States. And so excited to elect Kamala Harris as our next vice president, African-American, Asian-American woman. I mean, that's historical. But at the same time, we've got to continue to be patient at our local level with these legislative races. So the outcome remains to be seen. But one of the races that I am so excited about is Ricky Hurtado out of Alamance County. He's going to be our first Latinx state rep from Alamance County, serving the state legislature, young man. So that's exciting to see. Our very own Terry Brown in Mecklenburg County. After Chaz Beasley stepping down, he ran for the lieutenant governor's race. Terry Brown's going to be joining our Mecklenburg County delegation, young, vibrant man who's going to bring some exciting energy to the state legislature. So we've got some bright spots and bright hope that I'm looking forward to continuing to work with to move our state forward.
Okay. And so what's next for you? What do you think? What are the 2 main things that are on your agenda? And quite a few people are saying congratulations. Denise McNeil, I see you. Of course, Janice Hodges Lewis says hello. Quite a few, Pop says hello. Quite a few other people are saying hello and congratulations. So what do you think, what are the two or 3 main things that you want to focus on this next term?
Well, let me just start by right now because that work's already started. I mean, I can't tell you, Judge Trotman, you know this, you've been under part of our judiciary. Protecting our independent judiciary is absolutely critical. And right now, you've got our first African-American woman, Chief Justice Beasley. She's down less than 4,000 votes right now. And I'm hopeful that she continues to serve as our Chief Justice because we need a voice like hers there. Time and time again, this state legislature has been out of bounds, breaching their constitutional obligations and their duties. And it's been our courts that have checked them, especially our state courts. So I'm going to continue to do everything that I can to protect our independent judiciary. They mess with our judicial districts in Mecklenburg County. We've been working hard to restore those to at-large races, but we've got to do everything that we can do there. But look, the people of Senate District 38 in Mecklenburg County, they sent me there for a reason, to continue to advocate for them, just like I've advocated for my clients, whether it's been young people at the Council for Children's Rights or as an assistant public defender. But we're going to continue to take that advocacy. Because for me, what's most critical for me is I want the best, what I want for my very own children, I want for your children, grandchildren and nieces and nephews, for the folks that are listening out there. We've got to create a better state that's accountable, that's transparent, and compassionate to people. So we're going to continue the fight for public education, access to health care. We've got to do everything that we can. And 2022 is going to be another day. So like I told you earlier, we're going to continue to put the work in today. I need the folks that are listening today to continue to join us to put in this work so we can change the face of our state, take this majority in 2022, because the reality is I'm going to be okay, Judge Trotman, you're going to be okay, and so many folks that are listening, but there are people out there that are counting on us. And we have an obligation and duty to do it. So whether I'm in the minority or the majority, your voice will continue to be heard. I'm going to be continuing to listen to you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to provide you quality representative democracy in North Carolina.
Beautifully said. As tired as I know you are, beautifully said. So I have to say this. John Powell, who is, of course, one of my favorite Republicans, commented he wanted to know if he could say congratulations. Of course, John, you tripping. Anyway, so John says congratulations, as well as Nathan Butler. So, all right. So where we are now, and again, because we don't know what the final numbers are, but I'm curious on your opinion. How do you, because obviously this happened the last time. We ended up having a Democratic governor, a Republican lieutenant governor. The same thing has happened again. The stark difference, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, is how should I say this? The qualifications of the person who is at this point declared the victor. So do you think, and maybe this isn't it, but do you think it was as a woman that played into it when people are making that choice? Because on one hand, you could argue it seemed consistent across the board as far as the numbers and the percentages that people kind of voted along party lines. But I found her race to be particularly interesting when people are obviously satisfied with Cooper's handling of obviously running the state, but the person who's next in line is complete polar opposite, not because of politics, but just because of just sheer raw experience.
Look, what I think, Judge Trotman, Governor Cooper has been doing a phenomenal job. He's been, constantly out there. He's been continuing to put the health and well-being and public safety of all North Carolinians above else. And look, I can tell you, as an elected official myself serving in the North Carolina Senate, we've had so many businesses that have been hurting, so many families that are hurting, so many people of color that are struggling with this global pandemic that we're dealing with. And let's not forget that. We're dealing with an election, but we're still dealing with COVID, folks. And folks are continuing to hurt. And our governor has been out there, prioritizing our health and safety above all else. Nobody wants to shut down businesses. Nobody wants to issue stay-at-home orders. But I think Governor Cooper did a phenomenal job. He continues to get bipartisan support. He's done a fantastic job of appointing, wonderful judges to the bench, like Judge Reggie McKnight right here in Mecklenburg County recently. You got Chief Justice Sherry Beasley. So he's built solid relationships. I would have been excited to have Yvonne Lewis-Hawley as our next lieutenant governor. Unfortunately, she came up short. But look, I don't know Mark Robinson. I've heard a lot of things about this gentleman, things that I don't necessarily agree with or appreciate, but I'm looking forward to getting to know him, because at the end of the day, look, we're all Americans, we're North Carolinians. You've heard Joe Biden talk about this. Yes, I too am a Democrat, but at the end of the day, I'm a North Carolinian, I'm an American. I'm going to make sure that I represent all people. And I generally, when I'm leading in the North Carolina Senate, I genuinely believe that whether you're Republican or Democrat and you're serving in an elected capacity, you come at this with genuinely good faith. We might not always agree on our vision or how to get to places, but at the end of the day, I think if we all approach it as if everyone's coming at this with good faith, nobody's got a malicious intent, that's how we can work together, because people don't send us to public office so we can just fight as if this is WWE or some sort of, TV talk show. They're hurting, they need leaders who are going to step up and come together and put them and their families first. So whether it's Mark Robinson or Representative Holly as our next lieutenant governor, whoever it would have been, excited to work with anyone to do the work that needs to be done. And that's making sure that people win at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So if you can stick around to join us in a little bit, would be honored to do so. But I know you got a lot of work to do. So thank you for joining us. Now, if people have questions, I know obviously your district doesn't serve everyone, but if people have questions, can they reach out to you through your legislative email?
Look, what I will say, not everybody can vote for me, but I serve all North Carolinians because there's 50 of us, and one vote impacts the whole state. So absolutely, if you go to the General Assembly's website, ncleg.gov, look me up. You can look up any of your other state legislators and reach out to them. I mean, that's absolutely critical. I need folks that have Republican legislators. Reach out and tell them you need Medicaid expansion. Bring our federal tax dollars back to our state. It's the right thing to do. It's a win-win. So reach out, stay engaged, stay informed, and help our state and country move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in a few minutes. But if not, obviously, best wishes to you. You know, you're one of our faves, and we are so excited to see the work that you continue to do. And all right. So next up is someone that I have known since, I want to say she's one of the first lawyers I met as well here when I first moved to Charlotte. She has recently won her re-election bid. She was out there grinding and making sure that it was so important, but a lot of people don't know her real backstory as far as the fight that she had to even keep her seat. And so her race is a juxtaposition of, frankly, race, politics, gerrymandering, all of that, because her story is so phenomenal. And having the courage to fight and having a court system that made the right decision so that she was able to continue her campaign and, of course, was victorious. So welcome to the show, Judge Kimberly Best. How are you doing, Judge?
I am tired. I'm doing well, Judge. How are you?
I am fantastic. Now, we know you're not still at the office. You better not be. Go home.
Green screen. I will not show my bags under my eyes.
I heard that. So I want to, for people who may not know the story, because I think this is so important to understand the fight that you had to even be able to run the race that you were obviously destined to run, because people that didn't really get the media attention that it deserved. So first, let's go back. Now, you've been on the bench how many years?
This is 12 years now.
Okay. And district court judge here in Mecklenburg County, obviously a countywide seat. But at one point, you were specifically targeted by the gerrymandering maps that happened in 2018 that resulted in the loss of Judge Curitan and Judge Brooks specifically losing their seats in gerrymandered districts that were designed to elect someone who was Republican. But yours is very interesting. Tell people about what was going on with you specifically and how those maps affected you.
I don't know how to summarize it quickly. I think what happened, it didn't get a lot of attention because they were focusing on the congressional gerrymandered maps. And we were told we couldn't say gerrymandering, but that's what essentially was in our complaint. But basically what happened, folks, is that they took Mecklenburg County. When I ran for office in 2008, same way you ran for office, we were nonpartisan and it was countywide. What they noticed is that there were too many Democrats and there was amazing diversity on the bench. We were the most diverse bench. I think when you were there, it was maybe 11 women, 10 African Americans, but still predominantly Democratic affiliations. Even though we're nonpartisan, they took the county and they started messing with the maps. And that was Mr. I forgot his name, out of Stanley County. He eventually lost his seat in the midterm elections last year. And Dan Bishop, I'm going to call it like I see it, and Dan Bishop, and Jeff Tart decided to get together and decided to break up Mecklenburg County into 8 different sub-districts. So you had 26, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Then they allocated 3 seats to one district or 2 seats to a district because there's 21 district court judges. What they did the same with Superior Court. Now, the key to this is with Superior Court, they ended up adding a seat With district court, they did 3 seats in one district, 2 seats in another. The 3 seats that they allocated to my sub-district, 26A, they allocated 3 seats. Well, the way they drew it, 4 of us lived in 26A, and I wasn't up for re-election. So Judge Curitan and Judge Brooks were up for re-election. And then another colleague, a Republican colleague, was up for re-election as well. So that meant, and if I were to actually run for my seat or try to stay on the bench, I would have to move. And that was not an option. I made it clear from day one to my colleagues. I made it clear to everyone I spoke with. That's not an option for me. I'm not moving. You're not going to tell me where to move for me to be able to continue to serve in my seat. And basically, after Judge Bob Hunter, who is a Republican, after he retired from the Court of Appeals, he decided, and after I and my co-plaintiffs, Judge Brooks and Judge Curitan, decided to, after searching and talking to no fewer than 10 people, Judge Hunter was the 14th person I spoke with as far as taking on the lawsuit, because I was adamant from the very beginning. I was looking for a lawyer, but everyone kept telling me, you're not right, because you're not up for re-election. And basically, as soon as he got off the bench, he retired. He had a brief filed within 30 to 45 days after meeting with us. It was within 60 days. A brief was filed. A consent order was issued in November. And the legislature, including Senator Mohammed and the Mecklenburg County delegation, a joint proposal was submitted by the House to take Mecklenburg County back to countywide elections. And that's because of that lawsuit. And the lawsuit is somewhat still pending. They declared it moot. The 3-judge panel said it's no longer relevant because they've changed this back to countywide, and that's been appealed from. So there's still an appeal to decide what the definition of a district court is, and whether or not there needs to be a declaratory judgment regarding what they did in the first place.
And so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. That's what it took for me to be able to run and not have to move.
And so when you first, and I don't want to keep you too long because it's late and I know you're exhausted, but I think what people are curious about, when you started looking for help, when you made it clear that you were looking for an attorney, was that a difficult process?
It was very difficult because one thing, and I'll tell you one of I think I'll have to take Judge Hunter's words to quote him, is that, you don't, I'm trying to figure out a good way to say it, you don't poop where you eat. And so he thought that was not uncommon, that people in North Carolina would not want to take on the case. I will tell you what I found is that they were thinking from a federal perspective, even some of my colleagues. And then once we drilled it down, we were like, wait, there's a state perspective here. And one of my colleagues actually mentioned that state perspective. Our chief judge now, Judge E. Trosh and Bill Trosh and some others, I think when we were analyzing it together, they always said, no, it's a state issue. The state constitution defines what a judicial district is. But it was still very hard. And I spoke with people out of state as well. It still was not. It was very difficult to get someone to represent us. I was told, just go ahead and move. Are you moving? No, I'm not moving. Go ahead and move so you can stay on the bench. No, I'm not moving. I shouldn't have to. Well, they can do it. I mean, this entire county full of over 5,000 Mecklenburg County lawyers, no one stepped up to the plate. There were people, and let me qualify that, there were people who were willing to. I did find a couple of people who were willing to step up to the plate, but if election law is not your area of expertise, then you're going to shy away with it. But, at some point, out of 5,000 lawyers, you did not have people who were willing or able to step up to the plate and represent us because of the fear of any ramifications or revenge as a result of representing us and changing Mecklenburg County. And last point, ironically, the Tom Hoffler files, if you all look at, there's a gerrymandering documentary I think it's on Amazon Prime. No, it's on Hulu with Stacey Abrams. I forgot the name of it. But it features Stacey Abrams and everything she had to go through. And we talk about Tom Hoffler, and I think we know who it is because Common Cause his daughter ended up giving his hard drive to Common Cause, which ultimately required our redistricting of our congressional districts. I received information during the lawsuit that actually the Superior Court districts were on his hard drive, and I have a copy of that.
Wow.
So this gentleman was also involved in drawing our Superior Court districts for major urban areas throughout North Carolina. And the same map that was on his hard drive that was provided to me that his daughter made public is what was ultimately used to draw Superior Court and what they ultimately used to draw the district court seats. So
incredible.
Yeah.
So, I like I said, I know you're tired, but I definitely, and I know there's a lot of things that we can't talk about, obviously in your role as a judge. But one of the things that our next guest and I have talked about before, and I know that you can speak to it, is your perspective when we talk about implicit bias and some other things that we see from not just the judicial system, but, from individual courtrooms and experiences as it relates to from juveniles all the way to adults. So first of all, we salute you, because the whole thing is, what if you didn't fight? Like, we would still be in this situation that we were in 2018 if you didn't have the courage to fight. So I salute you. I know our viewers salute you, because it changed everything, because I believe you ended up with 70% of the vote. Or close to
66. It went down to 60. We started off at 69. At 66% of the vote. Yeah. Yeah. But but the important thing too, though, is that we and this as well, Judge, is that we always see this drop off from the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot. So because I was alphabetical, my seat was first. And so a lot of people voted in early voting, approximately 74,056 people. Of that, approximately 369,000 people, about 464,000 voted in my race in early voting. But you see that drop off as you keep going down the ballot with your judges. And we have to consistently and constantly remind people, and I think one of your guests mentioned it, is that, listen, guys, your judges are the one who decides, is this the way these lines were drawn? Is this constitutional? Does your ballot really count? And so people have to pay attention to the judges. We do our best to try and get our names out there and to stay in the forefront. And of course, that because you are all over the place, and much more so than now. I had to learn how to use social media because you are me. But people have to pay attention, because judges decide whether that 3 strikes and you're outlaw is legal. Judges decide whether or not, the constitutional, whether or not the president and these ballots are going to be counted. We have Chief Justice Beasley and Lucy Emmons still in play because of the outstanding votes. But on the Court of Appeals, we basically had all of the 5 Republicans were able to win seats on our Court of Appeals. And they're talking about taking, the votes that we have outstanding. They took it to the Supreme Court. Luckily, the Supreme Court weighed in, said, no, those votes can be counted until 12 days as long as they're postmarked. But just think if that were not the case. And people have to really think, what type of judges do I want on the bench? And people that start off at the district court level, for me, guys, it makes it easier to ascend and go up.
Absolutely.
So there was a plan. It's a long-term strategy. So stay woke.
That's right. One quick question that Curtis had. He wanted to know, how long did you serve with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council?
Oh, gosh. I think I was on Juvenile Crime Prevention Council I became a judge in 2009, 2010, and I left juvenile in 2016. So I think I was on there from 2010 to 2016 because I got my son he was born in 2016. So I know it was 2016. I was on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. And that's another discussion in and of itself.
Right, which we will get to. So thank you, Judge,
Thank
so
you.
much for staying up and saying hi to everyone and telling us your story, because a lot of people don't know that. You know,
Right.
had you not had the courage to fight, our judicial races, is in particular in Mecklenburg County, could look very different. So get some rest. Give baby boy my love. Give him a little Zerbert. Give him an old school Zerbert on the cheek.
I will.
And have a wonderful night. And of
All
course,
right.
congratulations. We are super proud of you.
Thank you. And thank you for all you've done.
All right. Thanks. Have a good
All right,
night.
Judge.
All right. All right. And next up, now y'all all know, if you've been watching the show at all, you already know Renee Little. We have talked about implicit bias. We've talked about major cases. At the time, attorney Renee Little. Now, yes, ma'am, judge-elect. See Renee Little. Yes, honey. Welcome to the show. Wait a minute, I gotta give you some of that. Yes, I know, because you haven't been sworn in. I can still do this. Yes, sis.
Hey, Judge, how are you?
I'm good. How are you feeling?
It's always and both, right? It's so I am blessed, highly favored, so honored to be on your show. So grateful for Judge Best and Judge Brooks and Judge Curitan and their bravery and their fearlessness, which is so needed. I am also sober. I'm sober today because I do believe that for many people, everyday people, perception is reality. And there's a perception in our country that things are not always fair for all people.
Right.
And to the extent that people, especially when it comes to the judiciary, that there is fear that depending on who is on the bench and what their life view may be, that you may not be seen as fully human, fully deserving of dignity. That is sobering. And so it's and both. I celebrate the victories. I am hopeful and prayerful that we will continue to have more victory, and that regardless of who is on the bench, that they are mindful that all people deserve justice. All people. All people.
Absolutely. So your race, even though it was unopposed, I think the fact that you were unopposed in an open seat, for people who are watching and may not know what the history was with your seat, it initially started off as a seat that was in the districting, I think it was 26E or
26F.
26F. So you were actually in one of those gerrymandered districts at the time. And so what became interesting is that once the ruling came down, it then became statewide. I mean, countywide. And then the question became, when we came during that filing period, because, you know, there's a filing period for judges, was somebody going to run against you? Because it's an open seat, the assumption is somebody else is going to put their name in the hat. I mean, for sure. And I know there was, well, I won't get into the backstory, but at the end of the day, no one put their name in the hat to run against you. And I think that's very telling, not just of your reputation within the bar and people who aspire to be judges, but also your true dedication to justice and also access to justice. So tell us real quick, what's next for you? What's next, other than swearing in? Because I'm a bum rush it. We're not doing that on no daggone Zoom, Renee. Now, okay, all right.
I'm a first generation American of African descent, so there are already aunties and uncles and folk all over the world who are like, we're gonna be there. So we will find a way to celebrate. I'm so glad you mentioned me running unopposed, because I want to say this. I don't believe that I had any control over the child, but I did have a duty to still try to earn the vote.
That's right.
And so I didn't take it for granted. I don't think that's anything you take for granted as a public servant. And so, people would see me out in places and say, why are you still asking people? Because that's what servant leaders should do. You don't take it for granted. You don't take people for granted. And as a newbie, as someone who is a daughter of this community, but who is new to the political scene, I didn't want people to think that I took them for granted. And even as a judge, even though you cannot speak about political issues, and unfortunately, there are a lot of things right now in the water that are considered political. I don't know if I consider them political, but the world does. There is a duty to serve people regardless of who they are, regardless of their political affiliation, who they love. And I just felt it was important to get out there and still say, I want your vote. And so the next 4 years, I'm going to dispense justice fairly. I'm going to listen to people. I'm going to do my best to hear the stories of people. But I have a duty to let people know each and every day that I'm a daughter of this community. Judges are human. We should care about people, even as we dispense the law. And I'm accountable to you. So my boss is the people of Mecklenburg County. And even running unopposed, I am still, I'm still mindful that the people elected me and they deserve something from me. And so that's important to me.
And so, we've talked about implicit biases, and this is my last question. I'm gonna let you go because we've talked about implicit bias on the show a couple of times. In your role now as judge-elect, do you find that the short answer is, of course, you find that there's a heightened sense of that, having been involved with trainings and all of that, and having a level of expertise as far as that's concerned. So I'm not going to talk about from the bench perspective, but what say you in terms of when you were looking at these maps, and this isn't a political question, this is just when you're looking at these maps and you're seeing the numbers, what, if anything, did it speak to you in terms of where we are as far as the juxtaposition of race and politics? And I know that's a big question, that's a long answer, but I'm not going to keep you up here because we still got to get back to the panel. So
the first thing I thought about was I was so mindful and so grateful for the courage of Justice Beasley for being, I think, the first justice I heard in my life put race in the space following what happened with Mr. Floyd. And so many other justices and judges followed of different races and different political persuasions. And I really believe it was the right thing to do because there was a perception from people that come before judges that justice is not fair for all people, or that justice is really just us, depending on who you are. And so when I saw the numbers, I thought, wow, I would hope that her putting race in the space, and not even putting in the space, but really talking about what has always been there in the fabric of our country, that wasn't something that some people would hold against her or any other judge. Judges try to be fair. Judges deal with the law and the issues in front of them, but we also have to be mindful of the culture of people. And the culture of this country is there are concerns about the perception that people of color do not have the same opportunities in front of the courts.
Right.
And so she spoke of it. She is now still in her race, and we will see what happens. But what I am most hopeful is, no matter what the outcome is, and this should be a lesson for any judge, regardless of your political party, do we care enough about the law and people to make sure that we uphold the independence of the judiciary, the sanctity of the Constitution of our country and our state, and that people aren't fearful that destiny and demography go hand in hand? Right. Absolutely. And so that's what I am really most concerned about. And also because the President of the United States, the current president, the fact that he has an executive order that I think has really made some people cautious about even talking about race. Given his executive order that came down in September that, federal employees cannot talk about, institutional racism, and his concerns that by talking about it, that you're painting everyone with a broad brush. I certainly I hope that nothing has a chilling impact on judges and people in the legal system, educating ourselves about all things that impact the courts, including implicit bias. Right. And that people stand and do the right thing, regardless of whatever the political winds are. And so my hope is that implicit bias, if it's an issue, it is still something that people should discuss and we should mitigate. Absolutely. Now, listen, I know you've been up to, so I'm gonna let you go, but it's always a pleasure. You got to let us know when the swearing in is. And even if you're going to be there, girl, you already know, girl, I'm gonna have confetti and everything. Let me just say this. I know we got to go, but everyone knows how much you've inspired me, and not just as a judge, but as a lawyer, but now as a public servant who is educating and engaging people in these amazing conversations. Continue to do the work you're doing because it is needed. I so admire and appreciate your voice in this space. Thank you, love. Girl, don't get me. We're not going to do that. I'm already emotional and vulnerable, but I love you for that. I love you for that, sis. So have a good night.
And definitely keep us posted. But we'll be back to talk about this on a broader level, as we should. So have a good night, my dear. All right, guys. Y'all good? Let's roll. So we got a lot to continue on. A couple things, because I know we're getting to the 9 o'clock out. Wait, do we have updates? Do I get to put them? I get to put it? What we got? No?
Michigan. We have Michigan for sure.
Okay.
It's looking like Arizona.
Arizona, we lost 20,000 votes, but you still got
he should still be leading.
Yeah, he's still leading.
5 points in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Okay, so not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not officially yet.
All right, so a couple things. So one of the questions that people were asking offline was, let's just get to the elephant in the room first. What do you think about, just in general, this push to target Black male voters, with I would say celebrities? And do you think it was, why? The first question is why target, and 2, do you think it was effective? And so, Ray, since you've already taken a sip, I'm not going to come to you first. So who wants to take the question first? And for those of you who are joining us, or if you're catching the replay, if you have questions for the guys, make sure you drop them in the comments. So I can see you. I can see you if you're on the watch party, and I can see your comments if you're watching us through the YouTube channel, if you're watching us through the Facebook Live. So if you have questions, definitely drop them in, and let us know if there's any particular topic you want us to cover with the time that we have left. So, entertainers, what say you? And was it effective?
I don't think it was effective. I think if anything, it made them look stupid because they're facing so much backlash from it. I don't think we're following them, or that anybody I know wouldn't follow what Lil Wayne says to who to vote for, when a couple years ago he just flat out said, "What's Black Lives Matter? I'm not into politics, blah, 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 blah." So I think it was stupid on their part. Obviously we know why they did it, but I don't think nobody would follow the advice of a Lil Wayne.
Devil's advocate. He's got 32 million IG followers. Somebody's listening.
Somebody's definitely listening, but I don't think they're following his political advice.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. Sean, Ray?
I would love to agree. My concern is, so I know for a fact that 3 of us have been in a classroom. If one kid brings a new idea into your classroom that no student had ever thought of before, and then the whole classroom is now distracted with this new thought, and now they're asking us, the adults, about this thought. That is literally what is happening. Every call is, we were already losing 6 to 8% of Black men to Trump before this. We were losing before all 3 rappers, all 4 actors, actresses, before Diamond and Silk. So my concern is there's a political literacy gap here. And it could be generational. It could be if politics was at the dinner table in the family. But I think it is effective. The same way that we have John Legend for everything, and Patti LaBelle for everything Obama, and everything Hillary, and everything Biden. There is a reason why they spend the money on what they do. And we might not like how effective it is. We might think that, it starts with a C and ends with an N, but that is what they are.
Coon, what you saying, Coon?
I just didn't know.
Did you say trash panda?
Look, I just didn't know what we were about to say on this call. But, the king of coons out here, for a quick buck, even talking about the tax plan, to start your career on injustice and equities, about the police, about the banks not giving money to Blacks. And then now here you are, a multimillionaire, using your platform of 32 million followers to say, Trump. That doesn't carry for me. So if anything, it shows that they're hypocrites. It shows that they are all in desperate need of a cash influx, just like Donald Trump and his $400 million in loans. And it shows that they are canceled immediately. There's no time for negotiation. But again, Ray, you brought up your canvas for Gantt. Michael Jordan sat on the sidelines because what does everybody might be a Democrat or Republican, but everyone buys shoes. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you got canceled too. So now we see Michael Jordan, how many years later, recovering from that. He's opening up Novants. He's helping with testing. He's opening up scholarships. He's helping with community orgs. He is still saying, I really made a mistake by just saying nothing. And in 20 years, we're going to see Lil Wayne, when he starts using his real name, say, I really made a mistake. Please forgive me.
I gotta agree with Brad on this. I think because you have a platform doesn't turn into effective. I don't think that, and I also agree with Sean. I think what it did was it obfuscated things, right? Like it made everything less clear. But the problem I always have with this conversation is it implies that Black people have to vote for Democrats, right? We don't ask the question, why did 89% of white men or whatever, or 43% of white women vote for him? That's the thing that is insulting to me. One, it presupposes that like we have to vote in this way, and when you do that, they take us for granted, right? That's one thing, and it also ignores the fact that these are sentient beings. They're not just drones waiting to.
Okay, Star Trek.
I know, like we had 3 big words already.
Like they're not just sitting here waiting to. Hey, what Lil Wayne gonna say? No, these are people who feel like they're not being connected with, and so it's insulting, I think, to try to say, hey, folks are having another perspective because Lil Wayne said it. No, it's because there are areas where it's showing there is some type of fissure here, and we've got to figure out what it is instead of always trying to blame somebody else and not taking responsibility for what we haven't done as a Democratic Party to appeal
to that. Wouldn't you? I would much rather prefer 3 men and our queen here have a conversation about Black voting behavior than turn on CNN or Fox and watch white millionaires talk about 8% of Black people that they didn't care about. So I do agree with you that, North Carolina, we are famous for white female Democrats splitting tickets. It has always been the case. I mean, I'm not old enough to have lived during this time, but some of you are. Jesse Helms was not U.S. Senator at the same time that Governor Hunt was governor because of Black people. So I think this is a place where we can have a conversation and say, this is kind of weird. Why is this? I'd rather have it here than turn on Fox News and they talk about Black turnout.
Or CNN or MSNBC.
Well, CNN shames us and says, oh, Black turnout 13% lower. Well,
right, that's what I'm saying.
You're 13 years more racist than you were. So
wait, hold that thought. Because Roderick made a point. He said, if you can drink brown on this show, then you can say anything. You ain't lying. Say it again.
I didn't listen. I had the brown the last time, and I no.
Yeah, we were lit the last time. But before you chime in on that, because I want to ask this to any men that are watching, or especially if you're catching it live, or if you catch it on the replay. Why is it? Why do we lose so many Black male specifically votes to? Y'all know I don't say his name, to the circus peanut. That's the conversation that I need to see in the chats. But why do you think the behavior is so different? Because the media is talking about, oh my God, white women, white suburban women, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But look, at the end of the day, it's going to be Detroit and some of these major metropolitan areas, which is going to make it possible for me to put the sticker on my forehead. So
go ahead,
let's talk.
It's going to happen. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
To add on to what Ray was saying, though, I think this is a time where we could change the narrative of the Democratic Party and not make it seem like Blacks have to vote Democrat. Like we just said, Blacks are the ones that's actually going to save this democracy and win the election, from Milwaukee, from Detroit, the places like that. So now this is our time to make our demands and get what we want from the Democratic Party. They have to start taking us serious and not take the vote for granted that Blacks have to vote Democrat. And we really could take a stronghold of this party, and instead of them advertising to the educated white person, they need to start worrying about our concerns and advertising to us to get more of the Black men involved. So when Black men start saying, what has the Democratic Party done for us? We can say, this is what they're doing.
It is complicated, but it is so much more complicated than that. Because I think wrapped in this, some of the reasons why Donald Trump appeals to black men is because they're also, we gotta admit to that there's something about this man's misogyny. There's something about this man racism, or it brings up some, misogynoir, right? Like that's coming to play. So we can't. I mean, it's complicated because we can't try to appeal to people who are bigots in another way, right? I mean, we've got to know it's complicated because you've got some black men who will never support a woman, who have some problem with black women, who would have some problem with LGBTQ plus folks, or with, so it's all complicated. That's why you can't ask this question, right? Like this idea of why the black men are voting for him for the same reason some white men are. Right, like that's the thing. That
it's the racism of the other. It's racism of the other because we've all been in a room where we are the only person of color. And I know you like this. I used to do a lot of ride-alongs, and because I was very curious about law enforcement. And if you get in line with a cop and they connect with you, the first question is, why do black people? And then after the third question, I'm like, so why do white people invade every country and continent on this earth? If we're going to be spokespeople, or we're going to use each other as insight. So I found with all—
Is that Rona? You got to qualify those sneezes nowadays. You all right?
Don't play me. No, but in that moment, I think those black Trump supporters are like, okay, we know what he's done with these lawsuits for rental cases. We know what he did in Central Park. We know what he said about Obama, but he gave money to HBCUs. Obama didn't do that. Well, also, y'all didn't stay focused in 2010, so we lost the House and the Senate. Y'all didn't stay focused in 2012. When he was running for re-election, we dropped off. How can we expect an HBCU bill to get passed through?
And the Senate wasn't trying to work with us like they worked with him.
Right.
All this other stuff. That's the other thing. People, I'm like, they did everything in their power to block him. And you're calling for the okie doke. All the criminal justice
literacy, because who's tracking those votes? These same folks they can tell you every Lil Wayne line. They can't give you 30 of our 50 states. Like,
bro, nobody tell you a Lil Wayne line. Nobody knows Lil Wayne no more.
I just know about what's in a cup, but I got Coke. I got Diet Coke. But Lil Wayne, again, to our point, the literacy is lower, which means we don't have to spend as much time or money persuading. If we give them not the intelligence, if we give them the structure to know what is going on in their government, it is theirs. When a Donald Trump comes in, they can say, that's not how Congress works. When they read a tweet, they can say, that was nice, you tweeted that in 10 seconds, but that's not how a bill becomes a law. You know, we have to use education as our shield. Our greatest offense is your defense.
So Tariq makes a comment, and Brad, I want you to respond to this. We were talking about voting patterns. Tariq, I don't know if you mean voting patterns or if you're talking about why people are gravitating towards the peanut, but you said that I don't think that we question their vote. I believe we stay strong and continue to build the movement on this side. And by movement, I presume he means movement in terms of making the issues for Black America the forefront of this administration. So do we have a responsibility, because there's an assumption that Black folks are going to fall in line with the Democratic Party regardless? What do we do now? Because, I mean, you got that there's plans out here. We know that in general, we have to hold folks accountable. But how do we do that strategically?
Well, I would tell you right now, it'll probably be a little tough to him to push his agenda with Mitch McConnell still possibly controlling the Senate. Which might come down to that Georgia runoff in January, but I think we just have to stay engaged. We have to continue to educate our people and let them know we have to take part in the democracy. We have to take part and make our demands known, and let our elected officials know, like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want, and we have to just stay on it. I don't think we can't overthink it. We just have to stay on the elected officials who are representing us in our districts and cities to push the agenda that we want.
Mm-hmm. And so at this point, then, so I do want to spend a couple moments on just behaviors, because Sean, I think that's the bigger question. I mean, we can talk about what the maps look like. And if, yes, I've got a map. I'm going to put that up in a second. It might be old, y'all. Like if something happened, like you got it on your phone, Sean, has something happened? I don't want to miss it.
As
I'm
long
telling
as
you.
Michigan and Wisconsin is done, we're waiting on Arizona and Pennsylvania. If we get either of those,
We got Michigan.
Why?
The Senate race too. The Senate race. I was talking about.
Well, you know, Fox News already called Arizona. They're the only ones that call it.
We don't trust.
But everybody
Fox
believes
News.
Arizona will.
I trust Fox News. I
don't trust them.
I trust Fox News in these calls. They're not bad within
I
the
hope
race.
you're being recorded right now, so when you run for office, somebody just takes that. I trust Fox.
Hey, guess what? I'm not running for office. So I don't care.
What did you
Wait.
just wait? I'm not done yet. Wait.
She's
What did you just?
They
gonna make my edges come up. Hold on, you gonna make my edges come up. Wait a minute.
They called a couple states early first yesterday, and they were right.
That doesn't make it responsible. I could have told
Right.
you yesterday what the battle map was, but it's not responsible for me.
No, we didn't say it was irresponsible. We said we don't trust the call. Now, those are two different things. Don't start changing.
Fox News, even when they tell the truth, I'm like, nah. God,
they don't know what the truth is.
Arizona. No, I'm looking at the TV. Arizona looks like they're anyway.
So AP, I think AP called Arizona already.
Yeah.
Some time ago, according to the AP map I pulled. So we're waiting on Nevada and
that's it.
Pennsylvania. Well, really Nevada.
No, just Nevada, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, I think Georgia's going to be the knockout punch.
No, I mean if he gets both Arizona and Nevada, that's all. That's it. He's at 270.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll know Nevada until tomorrow. We might know Georgia tonight.
But
stop looking at the screen, Ray, stressing me out. Yeah, and yes, Tariq, we drinking. You ain't know? Well, we don't drink on every show. It's just this is a special occasion. Okay, go ahead.
Water.
I think
Ray, stop looking at the TV.
Yeah, don't do that. You're making us all nervous. Okay.
All right, let me turn it off. I'm gonna turn it off.
So let's get to local. Let's get to statewide real quick.
Okay.
Obviously, we still have some judicial races that are in play. We still have what's the number that we have outstanding, Sean? Of
117,200 absentee ballots.
How many?
117,000.
I didn't tell you that, Ray. I said 116,250.
I don't care what you told me.
Because look,
look, Sean gonna have it down to the decimal point. I'm rolling with Sean on this.
Deductible tonight, and I am willing to assist.
Okay, all right. So yeah, right. So anywho, so we got 116,000 plus votes. Justice Beasley's race specifically,
3,000.
Justice, she's down by 3,000. What? I don't know if Inman or Mark Davis's are that close.
All the justices are down by about. Nobody's down by more than 2,500 votes
at this point.
Yeah,
that makes me feel better because when I woke up this morning,
wasn't it bad?
Oh, it was
bad.
And actually, like if you look at everything kind of improved since last night because, like, I mean,
wait a minute, everything didn't just improve. It was
I'm saying it improved from when I last saw it.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I last saw it, I was just like, yo, it's a wrap, man. Everything's. I went to bed like, yo. We're worse than we were in 2010, but like even on those other council of state races, well, not the council of state, but like the Senate race, even like those are still well within. Now that the 117,000 though, everybody who requested the ballot isn't necessarily going to turn it back in, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why can't. So we don't really know how many. I'm sure the campaign probably has a good idea. I think they probably chased these ballots, so they probably have a good idea about what is still out there that we know we're going to get back. Mm-hmm. But I did read somewhere, I think maybe even in your in the comments, that there was a person who works for the post office who was saying like, hey, they tried, they were like, we worked like 24/7 trying to get this out. So there's still some ballots that have to come in, and they can come in for 7 days after. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
The test?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Roderick, if you're still watching, he works for the post office. Can you chime in on that as far as the efforts that are being made now to make sure that those ballots are getting where they need to go? Just by reference, even where I was at University City, I came across two college students who would have their ballots ready to try to take in to the precinct. It was a long line. I was like, no, go to the post office right now. Don't put a stamp on it, get it postmarked. And these were people, everything was done right, checked to make sure they had it witnessed, all of that. And so if that's just two college students, I imagine there was a lot of that going on, hopefully on election day, that will make a big difference as far as the vote itself. For those of you that are joining us or are tuning into this part of it, make sure if you have questions, drop them in the comments. One of my faves. I see you, Nicole. I see you, Hillary. But I really am. So the other thing I want us to focus on, particularly from a male's perspective, we got to talk about the misogyny here, especially on the statewide level. The irony that Roy Cooper gets easily reelected, and we are still in a struggle for lieutenant governor with, God bless Mark Robinson, black male Republican.
That man is a bigot, bro. We are not.
Okay, well, dang. I was trying. I tried, y'all. I tried. You made my edges pop up again. Okay. Wait a minute. I tried. Wait.
I know Senator Muhammad was trying to be all judicious, but nah, that man is a bigot, and it's a shame that we did not elect Yvonne Lewis Holly. I can't even believe that. It boggles my brain that we,
because 2016. I mean, and to Yolanda's point, the misogyny of the voters, the sexism and the racism of the voters. There's another thing. You have a ton of more than 100,000 conservative white business owners who said, if Danforth becomes governor, everything is done. COVID's just going to destroy us. I think these are the same Republicans that when Pat McCrory was governor, they said, this dude did HB2 and then tried to fix it and made it worse, and we still lost over 100-something thousand jobs. He's got to go. So it's the same crossover vote. And then when it came down to LG, I think they said, okay, we got to vote for Cooper to save our economy and our lives. But then we're going to go back to the party line as we come back down. And then you see a split again where they said, okay, well, Jim O'Neill has problems in Forsyth. They got dead prisoners in the county jail. He's best friends with some of those investigators. There's messy things there. We're going to go to Josh. And then you started seeing the split on the party lines again. Mm-hmm. And that goes to you can't pay for this. This is voting behavior. And we see it every time. In 2016, Beth Wood barely won, 3,000 votes, Ray? And now she's up tens of thousands of votes. These are accidents, but they are voting. It's voting behavior. I think Linda Coleman, 2016, Judge Ricky McCoy Mitchell, Abe Jones, Vince Rozier, Yolanda, I'm forgetting someone. Dan Blue III. Mm-hmm. We had 6 African-American statewide candidates in 2016, 0-1.
Yep.
And now here we are. We have 5 African-American candidates, 4 of them women. And now the only person hanging on for their life that I know money is being put behind is Chief Beasley. Mm-hmm. So
that's it. I mean, for me, I think this has a lot to do with it was the races run, but it was also like the work, I'm just going to be honest, that the coordinated campaign did for these down ballot races. I mean, I saw some stuff but I'm like, it blows my mind that we can have the white governor, the white male governor, he's going to get reelected. The white male attorney general looks like he's going to get reelected, but his race is super close too. So he's still on the bubble. We're going to get the white female auditor. She's going to get reelected. The white secretary of state, she's going to get reelected. And then the other incumbents win, right? Mm-hmm. Like if they were incumbents, it blows my mind that that's where we are. I mean, if you look at I was looking at the numbers. If on election day Donald Trump won this city, 64%, well, basically 65% to vice president's 33%. But if you look in one-stop early voting, we were at 52%. Donald Trump was at 47%. But then when you look at the mail-in ballot, it was almost flipped, where we got 68% and he got 30%. So that's like when you look at really where we lost this race, it was on election day because, again, I mean, it was a that margin was way too much to overcome, coupled with the amount of turnout, almost 900,000 people. Actually,
So
more
we
than
always
that.
went early, right? We in the last 2 cycles we started winning absentee ballots. We always went early vote. The challenge that I had on these calls was explaining again, the youngest person on the call, the only person of color on the call, to say, you're spending all of this money to turn out voters who are already voting. What are we doing about low propensity voters, my cousin and them, who are at home? They see all of this interrupting their football game. They see the ads. They're trying to watch Real Housewives. You know, what are we doing to say to them, hey, your voice does matter, and Nene can fight with so-and-so later when you get back, and it's recorded. What are we doing? Like that's, and these strategists, these white male firms, these white pollsters, and there's no shade to them because we win seats. We don't activate us because the money's not coming to us. If you give me $50,000, I can do what the white consultant is going to charge you $500,000 to do. We have done it. Every district court judge outside of, I think, maybe 2 years ago, Yolanda, back me up, no candidate has ever raised more than $50,000 for those district court judge seats. Now, I might write a budget that says you need to raise it 100, but you can win a countywide election in Mecklenburg County with $50,000 or less. So why is it to win a state house seat or a state senate seat, we're saying, oh, this is a $2.8 million race, and the governor and all 3 former living governors are in on this race? That is unnecessary. That's a lot of that's a lot of pork. But to your point, Ray, I think that turnout, we should have said, okay, in that second week of early voting, we should have said, if we are projecting here, we actually need to save this money for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get ready to turn out all these voters on Tuesday. Because we were already winning early vote and mail-in to begin with. So it's coordinated, but it's also strategy, and it's about how we coordinate. So I propose this year, the Senate caucus should have adopted the LG's race as part of their package, part of their program. And they're like, no. When they started, it was, we need 4 seats plus the LG. And then the primary happened, and now we need 5 seats in the Senate, F the LG.
Right.
And then they're like, ooh, we can't get 5 seats. Now we need 4 seats plus LG again. Well, we've wasted 6 months of no one communicating with these campaigns.
Right. I mean, and turnout overall in North Carolina was at 75%. In 2016, it was at 69%. 2012 was at 68%. 2008, which was the high mark, was at 70%. So it isn't necessarily about turnout. Everybody turned out, and then they
turned out more.
Exactly.
They turned out a lot. Yeah, they turned out more.
Exactly, and so that's the thing
that excites them, though. So in our defense, we talked about this
Ooh,
last
child,
time.
wait, say that again.
Racism gets them so happy. They're like, wait, we might be in a trailer with Dish Network and Wellwater, but
in the wrong Wellwater though.
Divided states.
So it's easy for me to write a talking point and a finance plan for a straight white Christian male who commits adultery on weekends. It is hard for me to communicate.
Wait.
That's why he lost.
Because
he's drinking Diet Coke, y'all.
It's Diet Coke, it's Powerade, it's a little bit of Smart Water, and some Carmex. I might have accidentally ate a little bit of my Carmex, but it's true. When I go to the Democratic Party, if I say the wrong thing, half the conservatives, the liberals, the communists, the Democratic Socialists, everyone's like, but if I go to one GOP convention and just say y'all, I mean, they already love me. I already know what to say and what to do. And I think that's why they like me. They're like, I'm like, I know how to code switch. My parents raised me to be able to go into any room and have any conversation with anyone and leave safely. Like my grandma said, by the time you see the tree, there's already a noose, right? So we have to know who we are engaging with in and outside of our party, in our consultant circles, in our staffing circles. That's another thing. We got a whole bunch of staffers in the state that can't tell you the difference between North and South, and it's on their watch. So we have to have talent and a different conversation through all the silos, the candidates, the staffing, the fundraising, the compliance, the comms. What do you say? What don't you say? Do you talk to the press? No, you don't talk to the press. Like, your talking point. So turnout, Ray. We got to turn out where on election day with low propensity voters, because all of us are A and B voters. We're going to vote early. We already know that.
So I'm gonna jump in for a second because Brad, you've been quiet. You know, we get a little wound up over here. So you got the floor. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say with the strategy part, I think that's the part that the Democratic Party still has to work on. One of the things that I saw that I like, where they went to where the black men were to get the voters, was in Georgia. I'm sure everybody saw it. They went to the strip club and they had meetings in the strip club, and they even had the two girls cut the commercial. Y'all didn't see that?
I don't watch.
Yeah, I saw it.
I'm about to say, yeah. So that's part of the engagement, like you were saying, Sean. Like, that's the strategy. We have to go out and find where they're at, so we can bring them to the polls and educate them on why they need to vote. And I thought that was
Can we call it
POLLS.
That poll.
Yeah, absolutely. But that ad went viral. It was on everywhere. Yeah. So I think you got to strategize like that to go where the people are at to get the votes.
So then what now? Okay, so you're having a conversation specifically with a black man now, and he says, I didn't vote, don't care, and I'm never gonna vote because it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me. What is it that you would say to him, to whether that you think is your best argument to him to change his mind?
I think it's the same thing it's similar to how we engage anybody who says they don't want to vote. It makes no difference. The first thing you got to figure out is, what do they care about? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the thing that what are their values? What kind of motivates them? I mean, I think the problem is we treat black people, black voters in general, like we're just so different from every other voter, right? Like, we know how to. I mean, I think the problem is we always try all these gimmicks. We got to go to the barbershop. I got to do this. It's like, yo, you engage people like you engage people. And so if you're next at the barbershop, fine. But what is it what's their thing? Like, what's the thing that gets them going, and then figure out what's the inroad there. I think that's just, it's always a thing. It's like, what speaks to that voter? What do they care about? And then making the connection to what they care about. And so I think I think about my brother my twin brother, who is,
you got a twin?
I have a twin.
I'm a twin.
Yeah.
Lord of mercy. Oh, okay.
We're fraternal. We look nothing alike.
Okay.
But he is, he's a small business owner in Greensboro, owns a construction company and a property management company. He is, I was literally I took a call with him as what we were in an intervening thing. And he was just like, man, it's all a circus. It's all a circus. And, the thing is, nobody is caring about people like me. Right. And I think what he's saying is, just like they talked about President Trump's silent majority of people who felt left out, for right or wrong, there's a reason that why black men are feeling left out. They're feeling like the Democratic Party is catering to everybody but them. I don't believe it's true, but I know that is a real sentiment, right? So it's like, it's making the connection that not only do you belong here, but we need you and you need us. And so how do we figure this out without pandering, right? Like, without pandering, without trying these stupid gimmicks that some consultant who had a black friend in college told you about. You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff that we need.
Yeah.
What is it? What connects with them?
Yeah, I always tell.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, we're all 4 candidates in Charlotte. What I would like to see, and this is why public servants are not the same as politicians to me, because you should be exhausted if you're a public servant. I would want each of you to knock on 50 doors a day. I would want you to knock on, if you can't do that, we're going to come up with a number, we're going to hold you to it, meet these voters, take notes, and then bring them into the fold of your comms plan. So when you say update from the trail, when Yolanda says update from the bench, when Ray says update from the church, when Brad says update from wherever we are, Sean says it from where we are, they are coming along on this journey. And then they won't say, like, to Ray's brother's point, like, what's happening? They are already in tune and engaged. It's not, and it has to happen now, starting like tomorrow, so that when we go to you in 2 years and say, I would be honored to earn your vote, they can say, I've been following for 2 years. I've already voted for you, right? Like we have to change the narrative to Race Point instead of expecting it to earn it. But earning is expensive in time and in money. So now it just means, oh, so like y'all are like not us, but like y'all are lazy and you don't think we're worth the investment. Because we know they've invested in neighborhoods that don't look like us, whether they did it through a PTA, whether they did it through a school club at South Park High School, like whatever it is. We know the investment came in and that comms plan was there and that engagement was there. What are they doing for us? So when you see Mushaba looking tired, it's because before he says hey to his wife and kids, I'm like, so how many of your neighbors have you spoken to?
He ain't lying.
What's going on? Ray thinks I'm a dictator. Ray thinks I run people to the ground, but
you win.
They love him because like no one has ever knocked on our door before. No one has ever dropped in our neighborhood association meeting before. Nobody's ever told us that where I live has a neighborhood association, and I've lived here for 12 years.
What?
It happens. So once you connect them, once you show up into a third grade classroom where no one thought you were coming, and 4 parents are there, and they're like, "Wait, so you just came to say hey to my kids?" They love you, and it's because you tried. It's because you made a sacrifice of your time and your effort to come say you and your kids matter.
Trust. Yeah, I definitely know it from experience. Even when Sean, when you and I were knocking on doors in my neighborhood, like you be on one side of the street, I'd be on the other, like there she go, and I wave, be talking to them, roll over there. But I mean, it makes a difference because people need to see you. They need to be able to connect with you, and it's not going to be through radio ads and billboards and yard signs and mailers. Like
and text messages that shame us. Like at first, I started getting the text messages of Black voter turnout. Then I got the thank you for voting, but 2 people in your house haven't. You know that is
ain't nobody in my
house. But that activate a base, right? And it's definitely what you shouldn't. And if white people are watching this.
You know they watch.
You know why.
You should never feel comfortable vote shaming Black people who your ancestors have tried their damn hardest to block us from a process for it. So instead of worrying about what we are doing or not doing, I need for the same white folks, the same white Democrats, I love y'all, thank you so much, to have these family conversations at these holidays. Right. Y'all know y'all be socially distant, but we know y'all gonna gather. And you need to gather, talk, and pray and reconcile so that when we come back to the drawing board in January and we start saying, okay, so we got redistricting, we got city council, and we need to engage in our community so that when we show up for midterm elections and Joe Biden says, I can't be Obama 2.0, I need to retain the United States House, I need to retain our state houses, I need to retain our Chief Justice, or whatever it is, in all these states we can say, well, we started the groundwork on January 1st. Or we started the groundwork on November 5th, whatever that is. So we'll handle us.
Yeah.
Give us more money to handle us.
And talk about how the white turnout, why so many white men and white women aren't voting for Democrats. That's what drives me. I know I've said this already tonight, but that's what always gets me. I'm like, yo, we are giving y'all something like 80+%.
Yeah.
How about y'all go talk to your people? So I'm trying to gather up.
Definitely have to talk to them. But I think back to the original question, I try to break it down and tell people, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. It affects your life every day, whether you like it or not, or if you don't think so. Something as simple as you can't go to work because you have to homeschool. Well, that goes all the way back to politics. If you had the right person in office, then he would have controlled the virus, and then we would have been in schools. We would have had the money and the funding for the schools. So it's a trickle. It trickles down, and just something basic like that people don't understand. So I always try to break it down and try to connect like that, with make a connection. Like Ray was saying, if you don't do politics, politics will do you, and this every day it's affected. Politics, you're affected by politics.
And so now, obviously, tonight or sometime in the morning, hopefully, we'll have our definitive answer. And that's great for that part on the national side. I mean, we're thinking about courts and the Senate and all of that. But when we get down to local politics, especially as we're looking to next year, because we had county commission races, interesting race where in at least county commission, top 3 Dem at large. District 1, which is my district in North Charlotte. She retained her seat. Elaine retained her seat. I believe Laura beat Matt Ridenhour in District 5, which was huge because that's been a Republican stronghold since the beginning of time. And did I miss anyone? Because I think that makes it. I think that makes one Republican.
There's
it
no
one
Republicans on county commission.
None now. Yeah.
They're never.
Rodriguez retained her seat.
Yeah, they weren't since last year, 2 years ago. So
Okay.
yeah, so John Powell. I mean, not John Powell. No, Matthew lost against
Laura,
but also what's his name? Who I was really happy to see lose against Elaine.
Jim Puckett.
Puckett, yeah.
Jim Puckett, yeah.
I was like, where are we going? I'm like,
But yeah, so I mean that's going to make a difference for those of you who are tuning in local Mecklenburg County politics, because that's budgets, that's everything, but that's not good enough. Like, okay, great, we have this board that looks the way that it looks now. What are you going to do with it? That's going to make a difference to deal with housing issues, our housing crisis, to give us the funds that we stop throwing money at, to give us stuff that's going to actually do something. And I think was Ella the top vote getter? I think I saw it the last time.
Video. Where we can see you.
Yes,
what are you
sure.
Look, and Yolanda, you know what I want to see?
Yes.
Atlanta. This was really cool. And Keisha Lance Bottoms, I thought I was on like a
Keisha,
honey. But Atlanta did a transparency ordinance and put their budget online. Not only their budget, but their comptroller. So you can see on Monday that the city of Atlanta paid this trash company or paid this much money to put gas in all the trash trucks to go pick up trash. So that you could track every itemized thing on there.
We need to push for that in Charlotte.
We sure do.
Absolutely.
When you start seeing, and then if something costs a certain amount, it had to be approved by council first. So there's none of this, CMPD is allowed to use this much money as long as it's under this threshold. We need to lower that threshold.
Charlotte did lower their threshold, but I think it's still
1 million, and it's still
no, it's not that high. It's less than.
Was it the 200,000?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
They lowered it from $500,000, I think, or something like that.
But and then not only that, do an inventory order. So that way you can go on the website and say CMPD owns how many helicopters, they own how many Tahoes, how many Suburbans. So that way when we show up to our community that we're supposed to engage in, we can say, look, while we were asking for soap to be put in here, or were we asking for whatever it is we're asking for CMPD, instead they used our taxpayer money to upgrade 17 Chevy Suburbans. So you to show up at this meeting with me and send this email with us so that we can advocate for better policies in there.
So that's the type of thing that Safe Coalition has been calling for in their audit, which they're getting nowhere.
But how is that possible when, to Yolanda's point, we control the city? Look,
we control the city and the county.
So they got a couple options, because I'm feeling a little restless and a little bored, and I just won all these races. If they want to keep their seat, we have to, because filing happens in the middle, like April or May of next year. We have to give our list of demands to council in January and February and show up at each of these meetings, continue that line of communication and say, we know you read our email. I saw you did not respond. I'm sending it again. Please respond when you can. Or to say our community is hosting a Zoom, everyone's been invited. So that way when we run this report card and say to the community, we've called, we've emailed, we text, we offer them Zooms on weekdays, weeknights, weekends, and they did not do anything. Don't vote for them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. We have to get a lot more people to those meetings.
Yeah.
A lot more people.
Well,
we have to.
Another thing is they're virtual and they've always been recorded. So
they've always been recorded.
In the meeting, you got unlimited data for Facebook. You have unlimited data to watch what the city council just did to your neighborhood. Because I get tired of talking to people who don't understand transportation plans are 10 to 15 years old. They don't know that when they buy this house on this 30-year fixed mortgage, that the city or the state have already said, we're going to tear through all of this and build an interstate bypass. That type of literacy, we have to also hold ourselves accountable.
I think that sounds a little elitist, though, right? No, we can't expect people to know all of the minutiae of
come to the meeting, at least go to the link and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't think most people can do that, or I don't think everybody can
At the
do
meeting
that.
and they can't watch it. Where's the?
Yeah, everybody can watch it.
I don't think everybody can watch it. I mean, they can. Yes, everybody has the ability, but I don't think. Like, I think about my mom who worked 3 jobs, right, raising kids. Like, we got to admit there's a level of privilege that all 4 of us have, right?
Right.
That people in Brook Hill might not have the disposable time, might not have the technology, might not fully get it. So our government shouldn't be, especially in a place where we have democratic control, it shouldn't be a thing where everybody got to look at everything for you to do the right thing. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, on the county commission, I'm like, we have all Democrats. That has not necessarily equaled anything great. I mean,
and I only hear from Mark. I think Mark is the only. And if anyone's watching, you have a newsletter. I apologize, I'm not on it, but I get things from Mark all the time about what the county is doing and input and let us know. And
exactly, Mark, and then one other person who isn't even on there yet has been like Lee Altman has been already on it. I mean, she has been. I've been impressed with it, and that's saying a lot because we ran against each other, and she effectively is the person who beat me, and I have gotten so much respect for her because you're seeing, just like Mark, they understand that connection, and there's some politics to it, but there is you've got to stay connected with people because, like Sean said, I haven't seen it. I'm sure there are people who are doing all this stuff, but we don't see it, and so it's just like. You might be doing all this work, but you've got to. Part of politics is making.
You got to engage. You got to engage in a meaningful way. So, all right. So we could be up here 17 hours, and I want to wear my sticker. So, all right, Ray. Look, you got 1 second to look at the TV and tell me, is it time?
Yeah, it's time. I done turned the TV off. I done told you it's time.
Oh, it's time. Okay, I can leave it on.
Okay. An hour ago.
It's not officially time, but I think when Georgia comes in, DeKalb County specifically, that'll be time.
Okay, well, it's on now, so that's what we're finna do. All right, so listen, this is what I want us to do. I want to continue the conversation either late December, early January, because I want to have a strategy session where where people are chiming in terms, okay, so what is it that we need to do on the local level? And may or may not invite recently elected. I hadn't thought that thing through, but we need to start to have those conversations now to know, okay, you're on notice. Like, just because the city demographic is what it is, don't get comfortable, because there's plenty of other quality people out here that can run, that can engage. But we also know that if that's something that somebody is interested in, Brad, then then that's a process, and it starts now.
Yeah, Brad, I got to connect you with Lead NC, man. If you really are interested in running for something, check out Lead NC, because it's a shameless plug. I'm president of the board of Lead NC, but we recruit and train people to run for office. I mean, he doesn't have to pay for it. It's not like he's paying for something.
Right.
And then I meet that candidate and I fine tune that training.
Right.
So look, I already got my staff. Let's go.
We already got it.
That's right. You gotta think twice before you hire Sean, because he will win if you elect him, but he thinks he owns.
He does, because he does. Yeah, that's just what it is. It's just what we do.
Why are you on the phone? No, you owe me $50,000 in calls. Do you want to lose? Do you want to lose? Okay, fine.
How bad?
Why are you wasting my time? Why are you wasting my time?
Oh my God, that's him. That is him. I don't
That's
understand.
you, sure.
You will not find a better person. But
he gonna talk trash to you regularly. Yeah. Regularly. But
I'm with it.
And encourage.
I got tough skin.
Yeah, love and encouragement. But
he ain't gonna tell you wrong, and you will not find a more loyal person either.
Yeah,
but he'll still gather you.
Yeah, and make the show. All right, all right, guys. So we're gonna put a pause here, but we have got one, we got to talk offline, but two, we're gonna definitely have to come back and have a deeper conversation once this part of it, at least this phase of it goes down. You are once you get off the call, do what you do. I know I'm gonna have me a little finish this off because it's been that kind of day and I want to sleep well. So that's what we're gonna do.
Waffle House
We
cup.
can move the wine.
Waffle House cup.
Does that say Waffle House?
Hold on, you
says
stole a
Waffle
Waffle House cup?
It was a gift somebody gave to me from the Waffle House caucus.
So on that note, so y'all, thank y'all for joining us. That have, whether you tuned in from the beginning or you caught bits and pieces, you can always catch us for the replay. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe as always to all things social media at the Combo Pod Show. Next week we are going back to the evolution. We're gonna bring it down. We're gonna bring down the mood, and we're gonna keep it grown. So the evolution series continues. My guest will be Maria Howell, song stylist, absolutely phenomenal artist. We're going to be talking about the evolution of jazz. Who is Maria Howell? The first time you probably saw her was on The Color Purple. She was the soloist in the church who sang God is Trying to Tell You Something. That's her. That's where she made her acting debut. So she is incredible. If you've ever seen her concerts, whether she's done them here or across the country, across the world, she is absolutely phenomenal. So she'll be joining us on the conversation. But guys, we got to do this again and definitely take a deeper dive into what it is that we need to do on the local level and how we're going to engage across the spectrum, because we have so much ability to be able to kick the door down. We got to use it. We got to use it. So anyway, so parting words. I'm going to give you the last word, Sean. Brad, anything you want to tell viewers specifically in terms of what's next? Wait a minute, you about to tell us something? You looked at the TV making me nervous. No? Wait.
I don't know. Wolf Blitzer's talking and they got the breaking news. I don't know what he's saying.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
They have.
No, not yet. Not yet. Okay,
I was looking to see if it was maybe an hour reset, but anyway,
okay.
Nothing. Just thank you for having me. It was great being here, meeting you guys, and let's just continue the conversation. Let's try to keep everybody engaged. I just want to continue, like I said, just educating people on just the basics of the reason why we are doing this and why politics matter. So just follow me and stay tuned. Maybe I might have some big news in 6-7 months. Who knows?
Yeah, we gonna roll up on him. We gonna roll up on him after I hit the button.
just stay tuned, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the country. Even though right now I do believe we're the divided states of America, but I think the reason why we elected Joe Biden likes to bring people together, and we'll see what we can do here in North Carolina.
All right, Ray, what say you, sir?
All I have to say, my friends, is keep hope alive, drink your water, and breathe. We got this. Because as Kendrick Lamar said, we gon' be all right. We always have been, we always will be. Thanks to our ancestors.
That's right. How you gonna top that, Sean? That was deep.
My very presence already topped it. But I will say I would say remain encouraged, hit the refresh, don't believe everything you see on TV. Please go to Google. Anything you ask, it's a search engine. Whatever you ask, it will find an answer for you. It has citations. Your Trump friends do not. So please remain engaged throughout the process. No matter what happens across the country, don't lose sight. And if your vote wasn't so important, they wouldn't work so damn hard and spend $15 million across 7 states in 6 hours to take it. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And on that note, thank you guys for tuning in, chiming in. Catch us on the replay, drop a comment, obviously subscribe. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoyed it. Congratulations to all of our winners of their respective elections. They'll be back on the show to talk a little bit deeper about what's going on the judicial side and on the state Senate side and the state House side for North Carolina. But the conversation is not over. We'll see you next week. Everybody stay safe, stay hydrated. We almost there. Y'all have a good night. Bye, y'all.